Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of the She's Got GAWL podcast. I am Ebony Phillips, your host, and this is brought to you by the Georgia Association for Women Lawyers. And we are right in the heart of our JD Advantage series. And we're calling this series the JD Advantage Alternative Careers for Attorneys. And I'm super excited for our show tonight because we have finally snagged Rachelle Carmel to be on the show. And you guys, she is absolutely amazing. And I'm not going to go too deeply into her bio because I know she'll want to share some things. But I will just preface by saying sort of how we got to this place where we're doing this series is there are a lot of attorneys who are looking for their second act. They're looking to see, like, okay, what's this next thing that I want to do? Or they're looking to supplement, or maybe just, for a change of scenery. And we know that there's a lot of stuff that you can do with a law degree, but sometimes you just don't even know where to start. And I can tell you who's mastered that, and that is Rachelle Carmel. She is a wealth strategist, and that should tell you most of what you need to know to be impressed by her. But I will say for our Georgia natives, she is a graduate of the Georgia State University College of Law. That's where she got her let me try that again. She is a graduate of the Georgia State University College of Law, and she got her bachelor's. I was rushing because I wanted to be able to say UGA Go Dogs, is where the other degree is from. And so if you're a Georgia native, Rachelle is who you really would be able to connect with. And she works with Bison Wealth. And they do amazing work over there. But I'm going to let her tell you whatever she thinks that you need to know about her. But this is Rachelle Carmel, everybody. Hey, Rachelle.
Hello, thank you so much for having me.
Of course, it's an absolute pleasure to have you with us. And I'm so grateful that you carved out some time to be with us because I know that you are amazing at all things wealth strategy. But I have to say, we need you to kind of break down what that is for us. Like, what really is a wealth strategist? And then we can get into our main topic.
Sure. So, what I do is I really get into the weeds with my clients, figure out what they're trying to accomplish with their goals for their financial lives. Um, Once we talk to them about that and figure out what their goals are, we analyze where they are today. And then we do some planning as to what they need to do in order to move forward and realize those goals. So whether that be, reviewing their legal documents, whether that be, you know, re redoing their assets and in investing in different, in different strategies, all of that comes under kind of what I do as a wealth strategist. So we're just looking at their whole financial lives and making sure that they're able to realize their goals.
Rachelle, that sounds like incredibly important work. I mean, I'm listening to you going, okay, maybe I need to call Rachelle myself because one of the things that I think is important is just they started telling us this when we were in elementary school, right? If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And it sounds like a lot of what you do is help people get over the hump and sort of the sometimes planning is scary. It is the unknown, and it is the not knowing where to start. What kinds of things do you kind of see people having difficulty with and as far as that goes? And then how do you help them get past that?
I think that you are correct. I think that a lot of people don't want to think about what happens when I die, right? They're scared to approach that. They're scared to think about, okay, well, what happens when I sell my business? Is it going to keep going without me? These are difficult questions to have with clients. And these are the questions that I strive at asking. So
Right.
I'm just not afraid to ask those questions and to really get into the weeds, like I said before, with my clients. And I think that that's really something that you have to do if you want to be able to figure out, okay, where is my family? who do I want to take care of? Who doesn't need to
Mm-hmm.
be taken care of? Who do I not want to take care of? You know, there's all sorts of
That part.
things with, yes, there are all sorts of things with family dynamics and all of that. And we talk about all of that with our clients.
And so, have you ever used your law degree in the traditional practice of law, or have you always kind of done the non-traditional things?
I have not. I have been in financial services for about 25 years now.
Okay.
And I really, what made me decide to go to law school was I really wanted to get into more holistic planning. So I wanted to, you know, sit down with my clients and go from soup to nuts. What exactly do they need? What do they need for legacy planning? What do they need for business succession planning? All of those things where I was just doing kind of retirement and investment planning, I really wanted to get more in depth with those clients and strengthen those relationships. So while I've never actually drafted documents, I have certainly read a lot and counseled my clients on things that needed to be included in the documents, things that should not be included in the documents, things that I might see wrong, things that are absolutely correct and need to be in there. And just kind of going through everything that they have so that we can make sure they're on track to meet their goals.
So the decision to be a wealth strategist, was that because it sounds like at some point there was a decision made, right? Did you ever think when you went to law school that you would do traditional law practice, or was it always, I know I'm not going to use this for the traditional practice, but I need it to be able to be full and complete in the wealth strategist side?
So I knew what I wanted to do. You know, like I said, I'd been in financial services for a really long time, but what I really wanted to do was that more in-depth planning. And when I looked around, every job that I looked at was JD preferred. So when
Mm-hmm.
I went to law school, I was older. I had two kids and a husband that traveled Monday through Friday.
Yeah.
And I decided I knew exactly what I wanted to do, but I decided I'm only going to really focus on those classes, the trust classes, and the tax classes. And that's what I did. And while I was in law school, I did, you know, I kept up my networking with regard to, you know, the financial companies that I had already worked for, people that I
Right.
knew in the industry, and kept that going because obviously when I got out, that is exactly what I wanted to do.
Now, you said something that kind of hit me. You said that you knew what you wanted to do, so you kept up with the classes and relationships and all of that. Um, what about the mentorship piece? Is this a career that lends itself naturally to needing a mentor to sort of guide you, or is it a situation where if you hit the books hard enough and you do your studies and all the things, then you could achieve a level of success without having a mentor in your corner?
So I think, first of all, I've had a few mentors in my life, one on the financial planning side and financial services side. And then when I went to law school, I was a graduate research assistant for one of the best estate planning and trust attorneys in the country.
Okay.
Mary Radford, she is well known and in the industry, and she is still my mentor to this day. I still try to reach out and keep in touch. And then it's interesting that you say that because mentoring now is kind of a group situation. So when I got my present job, I really wanted to connect with other wealth strategists. So I have started a wealth strategist lunch circle. So we
Oh,
get
okay.
together with a bunch of wealth strategists around town at a bunch of different companies. And we have lunch, of course, and we have become friends. But um, through that, we've also talked about, oh, wait, have you ever seen this? What do you do for that client? Do you have any CPA contacts in Arizona? Do you know an estate planning attorney in DC? So it's kind of nice to have that group. And it's a relatively small group. There's only about 8 of us in there, but um, there's a wealth of experience in that. And so while it's not really a mentorship, it is a group that, you know, we can all rely on each other. And we've become friendly, like I said, and we can ask questions. We have, group chats, and it's really very helpful to be able to bounce ideas off of each other, especially at a small company like me where I'm the only wealth strategist. You can go to Truist and there's more of us there than just one person. So you have a built-in group that you can reach out to. But for the smaller companies, it's kind of nice to be able to reach out to people who do what you do.
Right. And so, in thinking about what you do versus the traditional practice of law, um, do you think that law school kind of helped you, or were there transferable skills? Were there skills that kind of lend themselves to what you're doing now? Or did you kind of have to start from scratch? I mean, you knew what you wanted to do, um, but I'm just wondering, like, going in it, knowing what you want to do, did you already know, okay, because you said the tax classes and stuff like that. I think that's the academic piece of it, but like transferable skills and stuff like that, was there an alignment there, or did you kind of have to create bridges for yourself?
I think that I guess what motivated me to go to law school was that I knew what I wanted to do, and I did take those academic classes. I think the transferable skills from law to what I do now, I couldn't do what I do without having that background. There are many people who are not lawyers who do what I do, and they have just been in financial services for a very long time. I think for me, I love having that background of those critical thinking skills. I think that you really do learn a lot in law school, that kind of help you think, okay, well, part of my job I feel like is what's the worst case scenario and how do we avoid it?
Mm-hmm.
And as a lawyer, I mean, I think that tons of lawyers do that, right? I mean, you're always,
Right.
what is the common answer? It depends. So,
Yeah. Right.
you're
Right.
looking at both sides of every coin, and you're turning over rocks and saying, oh, what's underneath that? That could come back and haunt me. So I think that those types of skills of that I definitely gained in law school, as opposed to outside of law school going backwards, from financial to law, but more
Mm-hmm.
law school to what I do now is definitely that turning over those rocks and making sure that,
Right.
we've planned for the surprises.
So, Rachelle, can anybody have a wealth strategist, or do you have to have a certain income level or a certain portfolio? Like, is this service one that's commonly available, or is it for folks that have achieved a certain echelon?
So I think that there are some companies that have minimums, where they only work with people, in a certain at a certain wealth level. Um, I think that what you see now in a lot of financial services companies are financial planners. So, while it's not okay, wealth strategist, we need to really talk about, you have a taxable estate. How are we going to handle that? You have, a $20 million company. How are we going to sell that? How are we going to move that from generation to generation? I think that there are so many companies now that make sure that they have financial planners on staff for their retail clients, at a bank, um, all the way up through kind of the level that I'm working at, where you're talking about taxable estates, you're talking about those larger companies that you want to pass on. And it's different types of strategies, but I think that everyone can benefit from some financial planning.
So, what's the succinct difference? I know it's probably more complicated than we have time for, between a financial planner and a wealth strategist.
I think it's really just the types of issues that you're seeing. I think that financial planners will deal with the basics of investment planning, retirement planning, making sure
Mm-hmm.
that, you have enough income when you retire. How do you, what do you see your life looking at when you retire? Those types of things. Whereas a wealth strategist is looking at, okay, I have a taxable estate.
Right.
How am I going to, keep the money in the family, make sure there's a lot of as you go from generation to generation to generation, there's a lot of dissipation of those funds, right? Of those assets. And how do you keep those in the family and make sure that you have enough for your grandchildren, your great grandchildren, and, and so forth. So I think that it's all about financial planning. I think that you're just looking at those different issues, whereas, the tax exemption right now for estate tax is 13.6 million. So, you're not everybody is there, and a lot of
Right.
people aren't at 26 plus million for a couple. So I think that that's really the difference, is that you're looking at, yes, we're looking at financial planning, but also we're looking at those tax issues and how to transfer those larger assets in order to make sure that future generations can benefit from that as well.
And so, if somebody is looking for a financial planner or a wealth strategist, what advice do you have in terms of when they're trying to vet that person or even start the selection process? Maybe they're picking from a list of people, who knows? Sometimes people
Mhm.
get a ton of referrals and don't know how to pare the list down. What would you recommend?
For me, I really like to have a personal connection with my clients. And I think that clients feel better when they have a personal relationship with their advisor. So whether that be someone from, who knows someone who knows where you came from, right? Whether it be religion, whether it be the college that you went to, whether it be the fraternity that you were in, all of those different types of things, I think make somebody more relatable. And
Mm-hmm.
I think the more you are relatable to a client, the more the client feels like you understand where they're coming from. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that's really the most important thing. I mean, obviously there's trust and there's, making sure that they're honest and that type of
Right.
thing as well. But I think that when you're looking for a financial advisor and a financial planner, what you really want to know is that they understand your needs. They understand where you're coming from. They understand where you want to go, and they understand how to get you there.
Okay. Now, I have to pick your brain just a little bit. I can't have an expert on and not pick your brain a little. Um, and I'll just leave this very open-ended and broad, right? I know this topic is wealth strategy per se, the JD advantage and all the things, but I also know that you are a woman who is very experienced, very educated, and very knowledgeable. So, open-ended question, because I know we got to wrap soon. You've given us a chunk of your time, and we really appreciate it. But any topic you choose, any nuggets of wisdom, any Rachelleisms that our audience would benefit from, I'm going to just leave it very open ended and say, close us out.
I think that if you're looking to make a change in your career, or you want to do something non-traditional, but um, you do want to use your legal knowledge. And I think for me, that's what was so important, is that I get to use my legal background. I get to use my financial services background, and that really fulfills me. So I think that my advice to somebody that's considering a change in career or a different path is take a look at where you are and ask if you'll be fulfilled if you make a move. And I think that what you really need to think about for yourself is, will that change fulfill me? Will it make me whole? Will it keep me happy? Because we only have a set number of years on this world, in this earth. And I just think that we shouldn't waste it being unhappy. And I know there's a lot of attorneys out there who are just kind of put through the grinder every day in and day out. And i don't I don't ever look at my career and say, oh my gosh, I don't have time for my family. Oh my gosh, I don't have time to make sure that I'm okay, that my self-care is a priority.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that kind of you need to balance all of those issues out, you know, family is very important. Friendships are very important. Taking care of yourself is very important. And as you look at making a career change, you want to make sure that you're going to feel fulfilled and that you don't want to think, oh my gosh, I'm leaving this law practice behind that I've worked so hard for, if that's not going to make you happy. But then again, look forward and say, okay, you know what? Maybe it's that work-life balance, and gosh, I could be fulfilled that way. So, I think it's a personal decision, but really just make sure that you are happy and that your cup is full.
So what I'm hearing you say, I think, is when you're making that, because it's a critical decision, because most of us spend most of our time at work, so it's a critical
Mhm.
decision. But I guess what I'm hearing you say, though, is that the decision can't rest solely with the work aspect. There
Exactly.
needs to be consideration around happiness and fulfillment, um, because we only have so much time. That's what I think I
Exactly.
heard.
Absolutely. I
Well,
wholeheartedly agree with that.
well, I asked for a Rachelleism, and you gave us a platinum nugget. So thank you so much for that. I think that there are people listening who needed to hear all of what you said, but especially the end part that you kind of wrapped in a bow for us, because we do really, none of us have as much time as we think we do, and that's just the fact of the situation. So I thank you so much for joining us. I have enjoyed this conversation. I know that our audience has benefited from you coming on because, of course, there are people out there who need to really have a deep dive and a deep conversation about all the things you mentioned. How am I going to pass my business on? How am I going to keep my legacy going? How am I going to pass this estate and all the things? And because it's scary, sometimes we kind of hesitate and don't do the
Mhm.
things we need to do. But I'm also taking from your conversation that planning is so very important. I know that Bison Wealth is very lucky to have you. And so I thank you so much. I'm going to close out by saying that if you want to know anything about GAWL or anything that we have going on, please go to our website at gawl.org. And we're spelling GAWL, GAWL, gawl.org. We'd love to have you join us. We are a very robust organization of women lawyers and judges. And as you can see with Rachelle Carmel, non-traditional practice as well. So there's something for everybody. If you're not ready to join yet, then just go on the website and poke around and see what we've got going on. In the meantime, as you pivot or think about pivoting, I like Rachelle's advice. Just make sure that you're going to be happy and fulfilled. Thank you so much for coming on, Rachelle. And until next time, everybody, this has been the She's Got GAWL podcast, brought to you by the Georgia Association for Women Lawyers, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you so much for having me.